Thanks for choosing this free Anfield Index podcast. If you'd prefer to listen to this or any of our other shows without adverts, then now's the time to check out Anfield Index Pro. With AI Pro, you can supercharge your entire listening experience. You'll not only get all of our podcasts without the ads, but you'll have them far faster with our quick publish feature available exclusively for subscribers. AI Pro also puts you in the heart of our sound studio, with an option to listen to many of our shows live and interact with the podcasters in real time as the shows are recording. Upgrading couldn't be easier. AI Pro is available on all popular podcast platforms, and we have our own apps for Apple and Android. Just head on over to AnfieldIndexPro.com and get started today.
Hello and welcome to the Anfield Index Podcast. It's episode something or other, and I am broadcasting to you from my house in a field in beautiful rural Ireland. My name's Trev Downey, and I'm joined this evening by Marie Hanahan and Kam Brainch to do our weekly chat about all things Liverpool Football Club. And I have a little introductory piece for you guys this evening that was suggested by a Twitter pal of mine, Nick, who forwarded on a very interesting little video clip for me today that brought me back to my childhood, and I thought we might start with that. It's about 3 minutes long, and apologies if it's not exactly the type of thing that some of you might be into, but also, yeah, it's our show, so what are you going to do? So this is all based around a concept called ASMR, which is, by definition, autonomous sensory meridian response, which some of you will be familiar with and some of you might be a new concept. It's basically a relaxing kind of sedative sensation that begins on the scalp and moves down the body. It's also known as brain massage. And the thing that triggers it is like placid sights and sounds, like whispers and accents and crackles. And it's quite often the audio version of it. And the reason I became familiar with the expression even is that some people have told me, which I'm just going to take as sort of a compliment as opposed to being a bit depressed about it, that, you know, when they're listening to the great stories, they actually like it because it puts them to sleep. So I'm just going to go with that being
it is
pleasant.
Very relaxing. I have listened to the great stories when I've needed to decompress, and it is very relaxing, Trev. You should take it as a compliment.
I think I will. I'll just gonna go with that. You know, some people have said they've had to listen to it twice because they did actually fall asleep listening to the story. So I guess whatever sort of weird intonation I have puts it into that bracket for some people. But this little video clip that got sent to me today is great fun because it's a memory of my childhood. This is a voice from the childhood of so many Irish people. It's a guy called Micheál Ó He is, as Dave actually said today, none more Irish. You could not find a more Irish man. He is a fella who is synonymous with GAA football. He was the commentator for both football and hurling. The man in the picture every Sunday afternoon. So again, like the voice of so many childhoods, because, you know, he was just ubiquitous. You could not, every Sunday afternoon meant Micheál Ó voice on the radio or TV or whatever it was you were listening to as he commentated on whatever the big match was in Gaelic games. Here, he's describing how to make a sandwich, and I think it's great.
Now, I'm not a regular sandwich maker, but if I came in late at night and felt a little bit peckish, I'd have no problem at all in making a good sandwich. And a good sandwich for me consists of brown bread, whole meal, and this is a good example of that. Some people like butter, others like flour, and different types of things. Whatever one is available is the one for me. The first one I see in the fridge, that comes out. And now, I wouldn't overdo whatever you put on it. I wouldn't have it coming out to the edges, just within, sort of like a football pitch. The lines are there, outside it, nothing else, on the pitch, the essential. I would then get ham that's boiled at home. I don't like the ones you get in packets or anything like that. They're too thin. They resemble razor blades to me at times. Now, I like plenty of it, substance to it. Now, this is a good one to put. It's nicely bent around there to match around. Now, that would be sufficient. And céad le dhéanann sin ná cúpla tomato. They give a bit of moisture. You might have tea with it or something like that, or milk or water or anything. Tomatoes, and they wouldn't be evenly cut, but they'd be cut so that they'd rest on it. Cúpla ceann, I would place those, like the team would line out, not too near each other. And 2 tomatoes of that side would be plenty for me. Tomatoes were things that they didn't appear for a long time in West Kerry. I think it was after the war that they became popular, and I'm talking about the Second World War. Next thing then, piece of lettuce. This lettuce is grown locally. And then I'd put it a little bit protruding. That's what I like to see coming out. And I'd have that, maybe put it across that way. So that a little bit of the green, I was used to going to matches. I grew up on a farm. Green was everywhere. I like the green to be visible in as many things as possible. Píosa eile sin, agus píosa eile an déobh sin. Now, to secure them, I don't put any sort of substance that would stick them together. To me now, that's complete. It's natural. There are no extras to it. And then the job now, making sure that there's a little bit of green to be seen. Now, it's made now, except divided it in 2 equal halves. I don't like the modern idea of making 2 triangles out of it. Bread was never meant to be triangular. It was meant to be square, like a good feel, square feel. So, a slíne sinne down until you feel the solid board underneath. And there they are now. And to me, that would be the perfect sandwich. Simple, wholesome ingredients. Bacon that's boiled at home, Irish bacon, local lettuce, local tomatoes, gachrod. The tradition will live on forever, I think.
Now, after listening to Micheál there describe a sandwich, hopefully you notice as well that he slipped in quite a lot of Irish Gaelic, which of course is my mother tongue and language that means a lot to me. Between that, the references to fields and greenness and sandwiches, which are my favorite food, I just thought, I can't pass this. This is absolutely AIP material. So hopefully you enjoyed listening to Micheál talk about the makings of a sandwich. And if you didn't, maybe you could just relax into it, because apparently he does have that effect on quite a few people who were all very, very taken with it when Nick posted it today. So, Lisa Marie, hopefully you haven't drifted off into some sort of hungry contemplation there and you're ready to go. What did you make of Micheál?
I actually did. I saw the post on Twitter this morning as well, and so I had already watched the video. But yes, it's a very soothing voice, and it just made me miss Ireland, which 4 years ago today, I was on a plane to Ireland for our first trip. Okay, so now I'm doubly sad. Thank you, Trev. I'm also hungry because I haven't had lunch yet.
Yeah, that's exactly pretty much the twin take I thought you'd have. It is a lovely accent. That it's a real soft Kerry accent. It's he enunciates really clearly. I mean, if you go down to Kerry itself, sorry, but you're not understanding anybody, whether they're speaking English or Irish. The accent can be impenetrable, as so many regional accents in Ireland are. But Micheál does the enunciating quite well. God bless him.
I did have to pay closer attention when we were over in the West on our trips.
Yeah, I imagine you did. What do you have to start the show for us this week?
Well, I have a quote from somebody probably far more known on this side of the Atlantic than your side. But this week, I guess technically last weekend, the longtime coach for Duke basketball, Mike Krzyzewski, I think I said that right. He was often known as Coach K. Coached his last game for Duke. He had coached there from 1980 to 2022. And so is kind of known for, leadership things and that sort of thing around the Duke basketball program. So I found a quote from him that I thought was interesting. Mutual commitment helps overcome the fear of failure, especially when people are part of a team sharing and achieving goals. It also sets the stage for open dialogue and honest conversation.
Yeah, that's really nice. And I assume it made you think of this lot that we support and the particular management structure.
It did. It very much did make me think of our current Liverpool team, and even our, even Klopp as well. I mean, I think there's probably some similarities in their managerial styles or just maybe their people skill styles. So, anyway, but yes, he holds the record for the most wins. He won 1,202 games during his tenure there at Duke. 5 national championships and made it to 13 Final Fours.
That's impressive. That's quite a body of work. And yeah, you're right. It does. There's something about the sentiments there. It's exactly where I was going as well, was Jurgen. And it's only really when you see, shall we say, certain other high profile managers coming out and being, let's say maybe sometimes a little bit pedantic or, to use a far more technical term, pissy. And you realize that we are quite lucky to have, the lad that we do at the helm. And, speaking of being lucky to have lads, at the helm, young Brainch, he's driving the bus this evening. It's his topic we're going to start off in a second. But what have you got, Kam, to begin your contribution to the show tonight?
Good evening, everyone. Question for you first, Trev, seeing as you touched on something before I share my opening quote. Do you speak Irish Gaelic?
I teach it, man. Yeah,
you teach it, right? Okay.
Not only do I speak it, I teach it. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
It's a massively important part of my life, but it's a compulsory subject, so kids have to do it here.
Right.
But
okay.
Yeah, but as a result, then it's not as beloved as it should be. It's hard to know what the right thing is. So yeah, that's the status of it. So yeah, it's
my dad spoke 4 languages because they were compulsory at school back in the day. So,
4.
Yeah, he spoke.
So what are we
because
talking?
He's English because obviously the Raj was still about.
Yeah.
He spoke Punjabi because that was the local language. He spoke Hindi because that was a national language, but he also spoke Urdu, which is more predominant now in Pakistan than Punjab itself, or Punjab side of India, because Punjab split in half after independence. So half is in Pakistan, half is in India. So Urdu is very predominant on the Pakistani side. So that was also taught as well. So he didn't speak brilliant Urdu, but he actually spoke better than me. Mind you, everybody speaks anything better than me, but he was fluent in Hindi, Punjabi. He spoke English really well, and I think he spoke Urdu really well. He's pretty much fluent in Urdu, actually. I tell a lie. So yeah, 4 languages he was taught at school.
That's really impressive. It's absolutely the time to learn them as well. Like, it's too late if you wait until later. I've tried with Italian and it's just tougher for me. Even though I like languages, like, from my French is decent. I learned Latin in school as well, but you can't exactly go around that.
Can't hold a conversation.
Yeah. There are too many people who are down with the Latin. But it's absolutely the time. That's really, really impressive from your old man. Wow. So your quote to start us.
My quote, yeah. The challenge is to stay cool enough to handle the pressure in the moment so that you can succeed in the future.
Ooh, we're all very motivational this evening. What's that one, basically? Or who's that one from?
That's our boss.
Is it? Is it? Oh, I love it. You've tied this together beautifully. Yeah. You're like the dude's rug. You just tie the room together. That's fantastic. Well, I believe that we should probably start our football chat with a topic that you suggested earlier on. And the reason I want to is because I've spoken about it now on two separate shows, and why not make it the hat trick? Because it is a topic that's on a lot of people's minds. I know I had this conversation randomly with two Reds that I work with today. I'm sure it's a topic that's pretty much in the forefront of an awful lot of people's thinking. And you suggested it to us, which is, do you start Mo Salah considering his current run of form? Now, just before I tee you up to get us started on this, I saw no less than John Aldridge pondering this exact question today. And of course, look, just because lads are ex-footballers does not necessarily mean that they have the most tremendous insight about the game. We've discovered this to our chagrin many times.
Cough.
Yeah. Not everybody can be Jan Malby, alas. There are quite a lot of chancers and spoofers out there. But regardless of what you think about Aldo, and he might have a bit of a reputation for not necessarily being the most profound commentator in the game, he does raise the question an awful lot of us have raised, and you brought it up for a reason, dude. I assume it's not to be. I know you too well to think that you're being in any way edgelordy about it. It's obviously weighing on your mind, and we have spoken about it. Like, there has been a reduction in his output.
Yeah. When we did
the show, and I'll just tee you up like this. When we did the show live on Discord, the Raw, after the most recent outing, at least Marie was in the chat, there were a couple of people who were sort of picking up on what we were saying about Mo not being at his optimal, and as some sort of an unnecessary criticism, and that saying that he was being unlucky. And look, it's all about opinions, and that's absolutely fair play. But it wasn't really. I wasn't trying to say, oh God, he's shit now, we don't play him. I'm saying I always say he's our most important player. But the level of output that he had begun with was probably way too high to continue. So he's had this sort of cooling off period now, where it has to be a goal from play in 6 or 8 games or something like that.
1 goal in last 8 games.
So I'm assuming this is what's driving your observation, and the fact that maybe there aren't the assists. We were seeing outrageous assists from Mo in the early part of the season as well. So just tell us where you're landing on it, and myself and Lisa Marie might come in and give our tuppence worth then.
I think the reason I asked the question was because, obviously, like you say, I think it's a pertinent question. It's an important question, considering his current run of form. Since he's come back from the AFCON, he's lost a little bit of his edge. He's lost a little bit of his sparkle, but he hasn't lost his desire. He hasn't lost his work ethic. He hasn't lost. I don't think he's necessarily lost his creativity as such, but that there is something just slightly off in his game at the moment. And I think Jurgen has got a big question. This is a big question, probably even in Jurgen's mind right now, in that we're playing Man City. This is the game of the season now. This is it almost, in my mind, it feels like the title decider, although the title will not be decided on Sunday. And so you're looking at it and you're thinking, Diaz has got to be a starter. I don't think that's any doubt. After what he did on Tuesday night, he's flying. He's full of confidence. He got a goal and he got an assist, and that you can't not start him. The question is then, Diaz is then in for the left. If you're then going to play, who you then going to play as a striker? The question then becomes: it's one of the three then, isn't it? Is it Jota, Bobby, or Mane? For me, it would be Bobby. Now, then the question is, who's better coming off the bench? Mane coming off the bench is quite poor, actually. He very rarely seems to have a big impact off the bench for me. I mean, I could be completely wrong, but that's just my perception. So you're then thinking, who would be a better impact off the bench? It's probably going to be Mo then, or Jota. because Jota just seems a touch off as well. So it's just running around in my mind. But then I go back and I think, pre-Christmas, he was the best player in the world, without a doubt, without a shadow of a doubt. He was the best player in the world on current form, as he was. We were talking about, this is it. There's no question. And with that in mind, I think it's a no-brainer. He starts. I don't think there's any doubt about it. He's like you said, I think him and Virgil are the two names, that you put first on T-sheet, obviously along with Alisson Becker and, probably Fabinho as a number 6. But everybody else's position is you could say, well, maybe not Trent as well. We've got too many good players.
And long may it continue.
Yeah. And that's the beauty of it. But I think you can't not start him.
Yeah, I'm going to jump in here because I love the way you've talked yourself around. I think that's been a pattern everybody's had. And it's just, just listening to you do it live. I think it's the pattern everybody's had. It's okay, right. Anyone who's objective enough and doesn't have like silly dogs and silly fights can just say, okay, well, the productivity, the insane productivity has fallen away. And he's cut a little bit of a frustrated figure at times, with a lot of block shots and things just not quite working out in the way that they had been doing. And whatever the reasons are for that, I don't want to get into that because you're going to have people who go down the contract route. You're going to have people who go down the exhaustion route and all the rest of it. And they're all valid points that you can make and discuss. I just want to talk about form only just for whatever reason. The reasons for it, I'm not that concerned with because I too mull this over. And I'm thinking, there's no way you don't start a man who was the best player in the world on form only a few short weeks ago. So that then brings you full circle back to the lead-on question that comes from that, which is Mo starts where Mo plays. I, like you, think you play the man in form who's Luis Diaz, and he's also potentially a real surprise package for these guys. And then it's about who the third one is. And interestingly, I'm going with Sadio in the middle. That's the 3 I'd love to see him play because I think Sadio Mane, Mo Salah and Luis Diaz running at any defence is going to terrify the bejesus out of them. You seem to have plumbed for Bob. And I get that. I fully understand why. Just talk us through your thinking on that. If that's the 3 you're saying, Bobby, Mo and Diaz.
Well, the reason I've gone for Bobby is because our link up play on Sunday is going to be crucial, and Bobby is our best player for linking up the midfield with the attack. He's all over the places. He's a nightmare for the centre backs. They don't know where he's going to be, where he's going to pop up. His touch, his skill, is I think is way ahead of Jota and Sadio. His first touch especially, and I've been watching Sadio for a while, and for me, I just think his first touch has just been a touch off at times. It's been good, but it's not been as good as it should be, and I think it's crucial on Sunday that we're playing against a team who could quite happily literally play 100% with the ball. And we wouldn't touch it. They are that good at possession. And when we're going to be in the attacking third, us keeping hold of that ball and pressurising is going to be critical. And I think for that we're going to need Bobby.
It's hard to argue with that logic, and again, I've thought very similar thoughts myself during the course of the week, and it just remains then to ask Lisa Marie, like your preference, just based on current form. We've seen a couple of really interesting performances. We kind of played Benfica off the park, and then it seemed like we let them back into it, but that wasn't really real. And then we could have had a couple of extra goals towards the end. It really should be stone dead, that tie, because it was a solid performance. Watford, was one of those where it was just getting the business done. But again, there's probably enough chances created that the game could have been more comfortably won. Based on what you've seen recently, in terms of our front men, and again, they're the games post international break. What's your preference for this really ridiculously important match on Sunday?
Well, Cam's stolen most of my points. I think I know. No, I absolutely agree. I think Saul he needs to start. Because while he has been not playing to the levels that he was back before the holidays, first of all, it is ridiculous to expect him to sustain that for an entire season. I mean, it's just not realistic. And, but he played better in the Benfica match than he had been playing, in my opinion. I mean, no, he didn't assist, but he looked more like Mo, in my opinion. And I do think I just think having him not start would probably maybe do him more harm than good, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So I'm definitely, I think him, and I think Luis Diaz on the left, partially because, and I've made this point before that in some ways I felt that our front three had gotten a little bit predictable, to our opponents. It was always Mane on the left, Bobby through the middle, Saul on the right. And so they kind of knew what we were going to do. And Diaz is still a little bit of a new factor, for people. I mean, yes, he's played enough games for us that they can, kind of look at him, but he just moves, he bounds over in, toward the middle, and you just don't necessarily, and he's so fast. So you just don't really know what to do with him quite yet, I think, from an opposition point of view. And then I'm torn between Sadio and Bobby in the middle. Trev, I get your point, but Sadio hasn't been in the best of form lately. He's certainly been in better form than Mo, but I would argue that maybe he's just been a little luckier. And I don't mean just the wins for Senegal, but even in the couple of goals that he's knocked in, I think, he hasn't been in cracking form. So, but I think Bobby, and this is where Cam stole my point, he's so important to the link up play, with our midfield. And so I think you do. And I mean, then you've got Sadio or Jota to bring off the bench if needed. Jota who can poach a goal, and Sadio who can just, come in for fresh legs and energy.
Yeah, they're fine points, and I think there's merit in all these selection options. And poor old Diogo's, not gotten the shout from any of us as a starter, and yet there's an argument to be made that perhaps he's, our informed goal scorer. And again, I spoke to Jan about this during the week. What really strikes me about Diogo Jota is by comparison with our other forward players, there's a lack of grace and sort of delicacy of technique. It really, really always takes me aback how direct he is. He just runs straight at opponents. And, there's a lot to be said for that as well. Mostly those runs sort of end in a blind alley or a blocked shot like that. But that's a really interesting factor to have against a team like City who rely on being composed. And so whereas I totally get the notion of Bobby and possession retention, I also like the idea that we could possibly launch an attack and go quickly from front to back, which we can via Virgil. And as Kam mentioned, Trent, and we can go in 2 kicks of a ball. We can be scoring, unlike what it is that City do, and players who can get in behind fast and cause chaos. There's a lot to be said for it. So it's the thing I hope everybody takes away from the discussion is that we have now for the first time a real embarrassment of riches, and it's a wonderful position to be in, and it should be revelled in. And the same conversation could be had about midfield, because now we have fellas, I think, and I'm just going to float something out there and I'll pop this in your direction, Kam. I've no interest in the unending camps picking out who they prefer and who they're going to fanboy for. That's of zero interest to me. I'm just going to suggest one thing to you and see if you agree. There are 4 players who I think are in pole position to pick 3 positions. This is better than we could have possibly hoped, I think, because all of them are capable of having really good games in their day. And I think the 4 are obviously Fab, Thiago, Naby and Hendo. If I was to roll it, place a bet rather, I would say he goes with captain and he goes with Fab and he goes probably with Thiago just because of the same qualities you mentioned with Bobby. And Naby's unfortunate to miss out again. If I had my preference, I would have Naby in for captain, with Jordan coming in increasingly to sort of have a later impact in the game. I think he can do that job quite well, actually. Not in the way that people think. If you listen to standard English pundits, they seem to think that Jordan will come on and control the game. That is not what will happen. But he can have a very, very positive impact on a game late on, in terms of energy, in terms of doing things that we don't have a huge amount of other players who can do. That's where I'd be on it. But again, that's just opinion and the debate is almost irrelevant. I just, again, like to get your opinion without us having to go back and forward on it, because at the end of the day, Jurgen's going to do what Jurgen's going to do, and he will probably at least always, he seems to have one surprise. If you had a preference, what would you think would be? And like I said to Jan at the weekend, if you had a prediction of what you think Jurgen's likely to do, what would it be?
My preference would be to start with the 3 that started against Benfica. My prediction is to go with the 3 that you said. And the reason I think he'll do the 3 that you said is because Fab's obviously guaranteed starter. Naby played near enough the full 90 minutes on Tuesday. There's no way he's capable of, it just seems his minutes are being managed game by game, week by week. So I think with that in mind, the fact that he played so many minutes on Tuesday says he won't start on Sunday. And then with Thiago going off for Hendo, neither of them played the full game. So you can see them both, therefore, then starting. I just think, I think this season, I think Hendo has looked better when he's come off the bench. In the majority of the times he has played off the bench. I just think that, opposition are obviously tiring. He's fresh. And it just seems to suit him a bit better at the moment. But that doesn't mean to say he won't come in and be brilliant for us on Sunday, because he's more than capable of doing that.
Yeah. We're right to talk about, do you think we're right to talk about those 4? Like, this, to me, just in form, this is not a permanent situation, but in terms of current form, there seems to be a little bit of a drop off then to the next tier, which has Curtis and Harvey Elliott and Ox. To me, if we're in a situation where we normally would be, and one of those is having to be the 3rd because we have injuries and blah blah blah, you just don't feel as confident. But the 4 that we have there, honestly, whichever one selection that Jurgen goes with, and I'm assuming it will be from that 4, I'd be happy enough with. And Lisa Marie, just to spin it back to you as well, I heard somebody say that it's taken today, I thought it was an interesting point. They said it's taken Naby so bloody long to get into a rhythm of form and fitness that to not play him when he's in that seems kind of daft. Now, there are probably all sorts of chronic load experts and people who know much more about that side of the game than I do, who are shouting at their devices now. But when I heard that point, it held a certain amount of resonance for me. I thought, yeah, like Jurgen's a big believer in rhythm, and if the lad is fit and able and he's currently in good form, I'd kind of like to see him start as well. So like Kam, that would be my preferred 3. What about you?
So I'm starting to feel like I'm just here to make up the numbers this week.
You don't have to be controversial, Lisa. We are allowed to agree.
Well, I know, but it's just like, yeah.
She's going to say, no, we're going to go with Minamino, Ox, and Harvey.
Yeah. Oh, you
know,
want to select your
child. Let's just throw caution to the wind.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I agree with Kam, and I think Trev, you said the same thing. I absolutely would love for it to be the midfield that we saw start against Benfica: Thiago, Fabinho, and Keita. But yeah, I am leaning toward thinking it's going to be Henderson on the right there. But now that you've made this point and argument, you could say, about rhythm and Klopp being a believer in that, you know, who knows? Maybe he will start Naby. Yeah, I mean, Thiago played most of the game on Tuesday, which does worry me a tiny bit, because that generally doesn't happen if Klopp is planning to play him in the next game, or hasn't, you know, for a while. But he's had a longer run, knock wood, I'm clutching the desk. You know, so yeah, but no, I mean, yes, my absolute preference would be our dream midfield of Thiago, Fabinho, and Keita, but I really suspect that Henderson is going to start. Big game, he's the captain, et cetera, et cetera.
Well, let me start then the last question around selection.
Before you just do that.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Don't be surprised if Klopp throws a spanner in the works.
Oh, I'm not going to be. I've already said that. I think there's every chance. And if
but I'm gonna say who I think could possibly. At the beginning of the season, some of Mo's best form was played alongside Trent and Harvey Elliott.
Yeah,
yeah, that's true.
Before
Harvey's injury.
Don't be surprised if Harvey starts on Sunday.
Well, I for one would be both excited and eager to see what that would look like. So it's just a great position to be in. And like I said, Lisa Marie, there's one sort of area left, and we'll let you start this one since you've already been complaining about having to go.
I was not complaining.
I feel awful now. So
yeah,
the last selection area. Again, this is just a beautiful scenario to have such an embarrassment of riches. We saw Ibu Konate start in the Champions League and do really, really well, with the exception of a glaring sort of howler which led to their goal. And maybe I think one other incident where he got caught in possession up the field a little bit, and they launched a counter where they should have done better. But there's so much to admire in this kid's game, and he just seems to be a real star in the making for us. But then there's Joel, and Joel seems to be the go-to guy. Same question for you. Do you have a preference, and what do you think the likelihood is?
I feel like it's likely that it'll be Joel. Although I really would like to see Konate's pace, you know, against you know, whoever Manchester City puts up front. Cause I think he has better pace than Matip, but I think maybe Matip's kind of calmer, sometimes anyway, persona is, you know, and that kind of tried and true partnership with Virgil is probably the way Klopp is going to lean.
Yeah. Yeah, it's an interesting question you bring up, because in the last 3 games, City have gone with different personnel. The last one, which was the narrow win over Atletico, although, again, judging by what I've read about the game and the stats, it seems as if Atletico did not lay a glove on them, not a single opportunity created, never mind a shot on target. But they went with Riyad Mahrez on the right, Bernardo Silva through the middle, and Raheem Sterling coming in from the left. Then in the previous game to that, which they won 2-0, much to our chagrin after going top of the league, old Daichi made a balls of it, and his lot collapsed there early on in the game. And in that game, they went with Phil Foden through the centre with Sterling right and Grealish left. And then the previous game to that, which was the disappointing result that they had against Crystal Palace, where they drew 0-0, it was Grealish left, Foden through the middle, and Mahrez right. I think there's a high likelihood that he'll go with Foden because he's done
I think
well.
he is too.
Yeah, he's done well against us. Grealish is the one. Yeah, he is, sadly. Grealish is the one that I'm looking at, and I'm not 100% sure whether he gets the nod or not. And then Mahrez is kind of their inform attacker at the moment as well. So it's interesting. I mean, we talk about embarrassment and riches. Look what they can select from there. It's remarkable. They have such choice. And, you know, I'm really wary of even though I started the conversation with Jan the other day, I'm really wary about dumping too much on Jack Grealish, because he's clearly an excellent footballer, and we don't want to prove that against us. So it will be interesting to see what the manager goes with by way of a defensive lineup. And let's finish this whole section about who will and who won't. And look, this is kind of evergreen, because as long as the squad stays fit, this is going to be a discussion that's going to be ongoing. So just to get your take, Kam, then on who you would prefer to see at the heart of the defence and who you think is likely.
No real preference, to be honest. Obviously, alongside Virgil, I think whoever plays alongside Virgil looks world class. If Joe Gomez started, I wouldn't be unduly concerned at all. If Konate started again, and with Joel Matip again, no issues. So I think it will start with Joel. I think that's why he was rested midweek. Konate showed he's got a little bit to learn, and I think this season Joel has been really good whenever he's played it. I mean, I think there's been times when Joel has looked our best centre back. So I think he fully deserves to start on Sunday ahead of Joe Gomez and Ibrahima Konate.
Yeah, hard to argue with that. I think you're right. I think that's what the rotation was about. I think it's you've put a question in my mind now about that same process applying to Thiago as did Lisa Marie. So I'm curious to see what happens. I will just simply say that again, to reiterate, it's a joy that we can have these conversations, and we're talking about really good footballers, regardless of selection. The drop off is minimal to non-existent, and that is pretty exciting. It's a great place to be going into what is a massive game, and we should probably just leave it at that there, because this is Friday evening, game's Sunday, so the show will have a chance to live a little bit in people's ears before the kickoff, but maybe not so long. So there are other things of note that we could possibly have a chat about as well, and I wouldn't mind maybe thinking about one or two of those just to finish off in the last few minutes here. So with that in mind, we had been speaking about what's ahead, and I just want to tick one little box here, because there's a distinct possibility that we could be accused of being disrespectful if we don't. Now, when I spoke to Jan Mulby, he reckons the tie's as good as over. He was looking around, and we discussed the other Champions League ties as well, and he reckons Real are pretty safe too, but obviously the one's still in the balance with 1-0s in both of them. Bayern are going to be formidable at home, and probably have a great chance of turning over that surprising result that Villarreal got. Atletico will be hoping that they can do something in their home stadium against City. I don't think they will.
A shot would be nice from Atletico.
A shot would be good. But the other two ties are interesting. Chelsea probably, were better than what the result says. And it will be interesting to see what happens there. This competition's littered with dramatic quarterfinals and semi-finals, so let's keep an eye on that one. But we need to talk about our own, and I would love if Diogo Jota could have put that one away to make it 4, because I don't think any team beats us from that position, let alone Benfica, who are not one of the best teams that we've faced. But we've seen that they can do something if we allow them to. When we stood off them a little bit and allowed them to have and build up a little bit of a head of steam, even though they didn't necessarily create too many chances, they did have a little bit of a purple patch at the start of that first half. Like I say, kind of kicked off by a gift that they got. So I don't want to over egg it and say, you know, we need to be really terrified, but I don't want to be disrespectful and say that we, you know, the job is done. However, you two may disagree. At least, Marie, as you look at it, do you think there's room for Klopp to tinker lineup wise? And do you have a level of confidence going into it, regardless of, say, Benfica managing to notch a goal at Anfield? Do you think we have enough to counter that? Like, how are you feeling going into this tie?
I am cautiously optimistic.
Huh, right.
I mean, I like our chances against them, especially at home, Anfield, you know, all of those good things. So I think, I was thinking about that as you were talking, thinking, you know, okay, what if he starts Joe Gomez instead of Virgil in the back, you know, Joe and Konate, but then you're like, well, have they really played together? So would that really be a good idea? So yeah, you know, I mean, my thought is start strong. If we get a couple goals up at halftime again, you know, then you can do some early subs and, you know, and then maybe, you know, rest some players. It's like this week and next week are like ditto, because, you know, we've got to face Man City again, you know, next weekend. So you're thinking, do you want Virgil going into that game, you know, with 4 games, or 3 games, 90 minutes, you know, that'll be his 4th game in 2 weeks, and some of the others as well. So what I'm hoping is that we start strong, we get up by a couple goals, and then especially since we've got the 5 subs, you know, that he can sub off some players and, you know, and give them that additional rest.
Yeah. There's a huge argument to be made for that type of approach to any situation like with the one we're currently in, that you don't take a chance at all, that you do go strong, and if you can withdraw players, then having achieved something that you do it. It's kind of unassailable logic, but it's not necessarily what Klopp will go with. Kam, you know, you've already sort of thrown a spanner in the works with the suggestion that, you know, he is liable to maybe pick a flyer against City on Sunday. Do you think he does a bit of tinkering ahead of Benfica?
Oh, no doubt.
And where do you see that most likely to occur then?
I could see Curtis Jones starting against Benfica. I could possibly see Virgil getting subbed at 60 minutes, regardless of what the scoreline is. Well, providing it's not 2-0, obviously, or we're losing 1-0, then maybe not. So forget that, regardless of scoreline nonsense. I could possibly see Tsimikas coming in for Robbo.
Yeah.
The front three, we've no idea what he'll do with the front three. You know, you could see Divock starting. I'm not saying he's going to be completely disrespectful, but he'll put out an 11 that he will think can do a job. And with the embarrassment of riches that we now have within that squad, they should do a job. I mean, the Benfica striker looked really useful. I did like him. The first time I've ever seen him play, you know, you can't really judge anybody on one game, but he looked tidy, and he scored, I think, 40 odd goals or something ridiculous this season. I think the commentators were saying he's just banging them in for fun. So, it was a tidy finish from him, against us. I mean, we had 8 big chances in that game. 8 big chances. Mo had a 1-on-1 that he hit straight at the keeper, you know. Obviously Jota at the end had that huge miss, and 8 big chances away from home. I'm not saying we're going to create 8 big chances at Anfield, but you'd like to think we'll create 2 or 3 good chances, and, you know, we should get at least 1 goal out of those 2 or 3. So, I'm reasonably confident. I can see him making about 4 changes from the team that starts against City. Because, like Lisa Marie said, someone who keeps stealing my thunder tonight. We got City again next weekend. So, he will, in the back of his mind, have one eye on that as well. So, I think what will happen is, again, with the front three is, like we said earlier, I think Mo will definitely start on Sunday, and he'll be rested on Wednesday.
Well, we shall wait and see if Jurgen makes fools of us all with his selection. It's highly likely that he will have a few. Yeah, it's highly likely he'll certainly surprise us. I look forward very much to these games. As you say, Kam, the most exciting version of Groundhog Day that we could have. So I do enjoy it, folks. If you get the opportunity like this, it's so unprecedented. We're still the mad thing is still possible. I'm not really afraid to say it. I'm just referring to it as the mad thing. And how greedy I am for it to happen. So I retain tremendous levels of optimism, even if they are unrealistic. I want to finish with a very full circle type question, which is non-footy, because I'm keeping an eye on the clock here and we're getting close to the hour. And I have just a very simple question for you that I did flag up, but I'm not sure. I can't always rely on Brainchy reading things in advance, but I'm going to take a flyer that Lisa Marie did read things in advance. And so the simple question I have for both of you is, like Micheál and Marie Hanahan describing a sandwich, what food do you think you could be really engaging with describing if you were to do a little YouTube video? What food would you choose to describe in a sort of thoughtful and ponderous fashion like Micheál did with his sandwich? Lisa Marie, if you had to pick one, what would it be? What would you talk people through?
Probably either my lasagna or chicken marsala.
Okay.
But I'm not sure that I'd want to do my lasagna because I've got a couple little secrets that I'm not sure I'd want to give away.
Oh, is that right? Okay, I see. Well then, that one, that's not
just going on Skyscanner to check flights.
Yeah, so clearly that's not an option. So your chicken marsala, and is that because you're particularly passionate about that dish, or is there something? Why? Is it just a real familiarity you have with it that you think you've got really specific notions about it and how it should be done? Is that it?
Yeah, I suppose. Now, the lasagna, I've kind of merged a couple different recipes, so that's why I've kind of got my own take on that one.
Right.
But chicken marsala is a recipe that was given to me by one of my husband's aunts and has been kind of a tried and true one in the household here for quite some time. But, I also am, I love to bake. So I'm also thinking, because I'm actually getting ready, I'm going to bake a cake for a friend's birthday this weekend. And I'm going to go back to, Trev, my Guinness chocolate cake with Irish buttercream frosting. And that could be kind of fun to describe as well.
Flight on Skyscanner.
Yeah, once you start talking about desserts, Brainchy's all over it. Kam, if somebody asked you to do a little guest star appearance on a show called Describing My Favorite Food and How to Create It, what would be your dish of choice?
Seeing as I'm like a Michelin 10-star chef.
Yeah.
The only one in the world, obviously. I only have one dish that I can cook.
It's an omelette, isn't it?
It's this infamous Spanish omelette that we've heard about, right?
That's the winner chicken dinner. So it would have to be the Spanish omelette. I mean, there are obviously many foods I like. The funny thing is now, because I've been vegetarian for over a year now, Mrs. B cooks me a dish, I have no idea what it is. I have no idea because it's all these meat substitutes. Yeah. So today I said, "Oh, was that fish?" She goes, and she's looking at me like I'm stupid. I'm like, "No, it's not. It wasn't fish." And I know it's soya based or whatever it was, or plant based. But was it meant to be fish? She goes, "No, it was meant to be chicken." Oh right, yeah, it tasted more like fish than chicken, to be honest. And it's just like, I was quite happy thinking it was fish. So, I'll be on the road and I'll have a sandwich and I've no idea what I'm eating. I'm just eating it and yeah, that's great. Love it. So who knows what I'm eating right now. So, but yeah, going back to I digress. Sorry. Normal. Yeah, it would have to be a Spanish omelette. I do like to every now and then, get like a piece of obviously brown wholemeal bread, and then put a bit of butter on there, put some grated cheese on there, chop some onion up, a little bit of onion, a little bit of chili, a little bit of obviously the tomatoes. We have to have tomatoes on there, and then we'll grill that, and then we'll do a Punjabi version of beans, which is a tadka beans. So we'll put some spices and again a little bit of fried onion in there. Fry the onions first in the butter, then put the beans in, put the spices in with the onions and all that, and it's called a tadka beans. And then have that on top of the grilled cheese that we do on the bread. So that's like a regular. It seems to be a regular Punjabi dish, even though it's not Punjabi, obviously. So you go to most Punjabi households, so that is a common dish, and it's really simple, but it's really tasty.
I love the sound of that.
Yeah,
absolutely love the sound of that. Yeah, that's great.
Haven't had lunch, very hungry. Stop talking about food.
Yeah, okay, we should wrap this up and let you go.
Just kidding. Well, Trev, you would have to make something from your garden.
You would imagine I would have to make something from my garden, but I live on 90% sandwiches. So I would do. The only other thing I thought of there that I made recently and it was really, really good was a chicken broccoli recipe that I got from my mum, who got it from somebody else. So that is always a bit of a winner. But yeah, it'd be definitely some sort of a sandwich. I get very passionate about sandwiches. So we couldn't possibly have the time to discuss sandwiches now. But I'm already fascinated by this one that Kam suggested here. Kam,
yes,
Turka beans. Is that how you say?
Turka beans.
Turka.
Torka, I guess.
I like it. I'm going to have to look this.
I think Heinz actually
tried a version, did they? Okay.
They did a version of it. I don't think it sold well at all because you've got to. What I'll do is I'll get Mrs. B to write up a recipe for us.
There you go.
I hope you realise what a very fortunate man you are, talking about how you don't know what you're eating, but you're just getting fed all this wonderful food.
Yeah, it's great. I'm living the dream.
You are, fella. You are living the dream.
You know what? I've told my children the absolute perfect Mother's Day gift would be for me. Mother's Day here is in May. It would be to not ask me for a month what is for dinner. I get so tired of that because they have to come individually and ask that question. So I get asked, times three.
You mentioned
oftentimes. And whoever the third one is that comes to me and asks what's for dinner usually gets the "for the love of all that is holy, would you people quit asking me?" So yeah, the best Mother's Day gift I could probably think of would be a month not being asked what is for dinner, or when are you going to go to the grocery store?
Well, I think you should play this very, very loudly next time you're doing some runs there for the nippers. Just this last section, see if it actually goes in. They'll probably tune completely out once they hear that. Oh, it's just mom talking to somebody. I can't listen to this. Right,
it's usually. Are you talking to that Irish guy again?
Yeah. He gets everywhere, that guy. We should start wrapping it up. Was there anything in particular, Lisa Marie, that you wanted to finish with this week, or anything you want to recommend, or anything you're watching on TV, or any of the usual kind of things that we do here at the end?
Actually, I wanted to give a shout out to the Liverpool women's team for clinching their championship. And what? I didn't hear what you said, Cam.
Cam was singing Campiones at you.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, yes. Yeah. So for yes, and their promotion back to the upper tier. And if you have not seen a video of Megan Campbell and those throw-ins that she does, look it up, because wow. And also, I guess kind of a little recommendation plug. Alan O'Donoghue, who does the Minefield podcast, has another series of podcasts that he does called Motivational Interviews. And he actually interviewed Megan Campbell like 2 years ago. I think it's from like June of 2020. So maybe look that up and take a listen, because I mean, it's before she came to play for Liverpool, but it was an interesting podcast. So I would recommend that as well.
Top lad is Alan. Top lad.
He's not bad. He's not bad for a loud
even
man.
Though, he's from County Louth.
Yeah. God, it's a real hindrance.
That's just Trev talking. That wouldn't be me.
It's a real hindrance in anyone's life, that. But he does his best with it.
But I've been caught between the two of you on more than one occasion. So.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, you should just step out of the way there. That's never.
I've had the pleasure of meeting Alan. He is genuinely a top.
That's right. Al came over to one of the dues that you.
Yeah, we had a thing at Anfield when it was the opening game of the season. Liverpool playing Watford at Watford, and we actually went up to Anfield to watch the game in the bar area in the hospitality suite, and then we went into Jimmy Milner's hospitality box and recorded a pod in there afterwards. So they kindly let us in there. So it was
cool.
Yeah, there was a lot of AI people there. It'd be great to do something like that again.
I think that has to be on the agenda. Yeah,
yeah, that would be fun.
It would be brilliant. I think.
Well, and I've met Alan as well on both my trips to Ireland. So we had lunch the second time, and we actually went out and shared a couple pints the first time, him, my husband, and I. So yeah, he's a nice guy.
Yeah.
That's far too much Alan talk for my liking.
You should love him. He's a fellow Baldy.
I know you when I went to Ireland, and
I can't have a whole section of my podcast dedicated to talking about how great Alan is. It's just not okay. But you're right. You're right. He's a top lad, which is, it pains me to say it. And I will say that the only thing that I've been doing recently, just to give it my own tuppence worth at the end, that I would recommend is rewatching Better Call Saul ahead of the new season, which is coming soon this month, I believe. So I've started watching Better Call Saul again. I forgot how good it is, because I watch it kind of, when you binge something, and I'm just picking up so much more this second time around. It's a really, really outrageously good series. So I would recommend people do that. And Cam, lastly, to yourself, anything you want to plug or finish with or whatever?
I'll just give a recommendation. I've just watched both series of Top Boy.
Oh yeah, great.
Yeah. So it was 8. Well, it was 8 series, wasn't it? 4 series, sorry. If you get my drift. But it was 2 separate. I don't know what I'm saying here. But yeah, watch Top Boy, both of them. Really, really good. Really enjoyed it. And the ending of the last episode that they've just shot is just, oh my God, I did not see that coming.
Well, that's always
although it's not surprising, I did not see that coming.
Ooh, intriguing.
Okay, we think we should finish it at that. I'm very tempted to call this episode Jimmy Milner's hospitality box, but that just seems a bit long and unwieldy. But I'll come up with something.
Just take the hospitality out then.
Yeah. Let's not. I will come up with something as ever, and I want to thank Kam and Lisa Marie. I want to thank you for listening. We appreciate your ongoing attention. It is much appreciated when there's so much choice out there. If you like what we do, let someone know about it, and hopefully we can get more ear holes wrapped around this particular podcast and all of the stable of podcasts, including Alan O'Donoghue's one that AI are churning out on a regular basis. Such high quality stuff that it is genuinely a pleasure to be associated with. So let's finish it up. More big games for the Reds, endless big games for the Reds. And I hope that's exactly what we're talking about next week as well, as we have 2 more wins hopefully under our belts to chat about and 2 more big games to look forward to. That's the way it is now with this team under Jurgen Klopp, and we love it. Take care. We'll talk to you next week.
We hope you enjoyed listening to this Anfield Index show. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel so future podcasts find their way to your device automatically. There's nothing quite like fan engagement, and we'd love to know what you think of anything discussed on this show. The best way to get in touch is over on our free Discord community, where both podcasters and listeners debate the hottest LFC topics 24/7. Sign up free now at anfieldindex.com/Discord. You won't regret it. You can also follow us on Twitter at Anfield Index and find us on Facebook by searching for Anfield Index. Oh, and before you go, we'd love it if you could leave us a 5-star review on your favourite podcast app. It only takes a couple of seconds, and it means the world to the people who create these free shows.